Rory Singer's jumped in the mix. Rory, one of the premier martial arts and MMA coaches in the Southeast.
We're having a conversation.
His brother may not like being called a pioneer, but there's no doubt that Rory and his brother are, I mean, you guys, for people who are newer to the game, they don't understand what it was like when you were coming up, when you guys first began coaches. I mean, you've told me some stories. You guys made all the proverbial mistakes along the way. You know, what's been the biggest transition from you going to, you know, a coach primarily, you know, wanting to work with fighters, you yourself being an active fighter, and then going into the role of a leader of a place that's now family friendly? You know, you're still putting out high level athletes, but you've really, I mean, it's a complete 180 of where you were, what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, most likely 10 years ago. Yeah, probably 10 years ago. I think the business has grown and aged as we have grown and aged. But at the same time, with I think the age and the experience, and I guess people say wisdom. You know, you get a little older, you might not necessarily be smarter, but you're a little bit more wise. I think the thing that age has given me is wisdom to realize that this environment helps a ton more people than the environment we used to be in. Fighters are the most selfish human beings on the planet. And I don't say that with any negative connotation. They are selfish. But the only way to become the best at something in the world is to be selfish. Now, if you have 10 or so, 12 or so selfish people in a room, and that's what you want to do, is deal with just those 12 people, then that's awesome. And there was a point in time when that was sort of the mentality. That's what we wanted to be. We wanted to be fighters. We wanted to be in the UFC. We wanted to, you know, Forrest wanted to win world titles. All those things. But there's no long-term business in that unless you have guys at this. They're all at that high level, all making a lot of money. They're all giving a little bit for coaching and for purses. You know, you're managing, coaching. This is a professional sports team, so you're making money. And again, that's awesome also, if you can do that.
This wasn't something that I think that was really a career, you know, coaching and having a gym and running a gym that we were thinking about. You know, I think that we all wanted to have our own gym and stuff, but I'm pretty sure we all assumed we were going to have another career. You know, when fighting was over, when we're done fighting, you know, you don't have to have another career. This wasn't something that we could just do. It's just something we did because we loved martial arts, and the natural flow of our training led us to compete. And you want to compete, let's try to compete at the highest of levels, and Rory definitely did that. But I think that,
no, you get a little older, your career is coming to an end, so you can't do it anymore. So you go to coaching and stuff, but then just because we naturally did that well, some of that turned over into us running a gym or a business somewhat well, even though we had no idea what we were doing.
the product was so good.
Exactly. So because the culture was good, the coaching is fantastic, so the ability to even get regular people to a high level where they could be training partners to professional athletes, and amateurs and everyday people training with guys like Forrest back in the day and Brian back in the day, you know. So we're able to do that, but what you realize is that you need, when we finally realize how to run a business, is that you realize you need different sort of levels. That when you think back, hardcore gym in a room that looked a lot like this, not even much bigger, with a bunch of holes in the wall, it was a survival of the fittest. It was the strong get stronger and you cull the weak. But not purposefully. That was just the environment. So I got better, and Forrest got better, and some other people got better. Our old friend John Grantham could be in that room. And I have 4 or 5 people that are still with me today that came out of that room. But only 4 or 5. Yeah, Bo started in that room. Stephen Ledbetter started in that room. I did. Forrest did. But that was, yeah, you jumped in the deep end. There was going to be a lifeguard to pull you out when, like, on your first day your knee exploded because you thought you were really good at something and maybe you weren't and you got hurt. So, but there's no, unless you have money, there's no future in that as a business. Like Chris said, I got to have another job, so I'm doing this part-time. what you want, and then you start doing it full time, you start realizing how to maybe run the business a little better. How can you make sure that you get that person who's a little bit weaker to be strong one
Culture
day,
shift, man.
right?
Culture shift.
So then the culture shifts. So maybe you don't have as many high-level athletes as you used to, because maybe when someone realizes this is what they want to do, then maybe they go to one of those places where all those people exist, right? It's about, people go to Jackson's because Jackson has all those people there. And it's hard to develop that where you're going to get all those athletes in a room where you could then just do that. Like Jackson's not worried about teaching a bunch of civilians, so to say. So I've got a couple athletes, and they're still high level, but it's not what it used to be, because I don't have the time or energy or effort to put into that, which makes no money. And at the end of the day, I've got to think a little bit about that. I got a wife and 2 kids, and I do have to consider that as I'm 42 years old this year. And where am I going to be in 20 or 30 or 40 years? So I got to think about that. It's hard to put a lot of time and effort into that. And it requires an immense amount of time and effort.
There's a lot of time and effort. I think this is probably where Adam was talking about, where we might be a little bit different, is I make sure that the gym enables me to spend my time with those guys. I give those guys a tremendous amount of my time. I hold pads for them every day. We have a pro practice every day. I spend a lot of time with them, extra time with them. If they're doing the work, there's never a time where I'm like, no, I want to come work with you. I roll with them. I train with them constantly, and I because we have grown as a gym, and I've brought these guys on as coaches, and they do such a good job, it kind of frees up my time to where I can really kind of focus on that product. And I think, like, we had some really, really serious guys in the room back in the day with Marcus and Salter and Adrian and like all those really good guys, that went on to do some pretty big things. Salter's probably going to be the middleweight world champion for Bellator. He's going to beat Lovato for sure. Mark my words. And won the Abu Dhabi West Coast trial, and faced Sanjay. He's doing the thing. Marcus did a lot. He competed at a very high level. But I think that now, because I'm not starving and I'm not worried about how I'm going to put food on the table for the kids, because the gym is doing well, they have a job, and they're doing their job well because we've trained them and we've produced these really good. That's another thing that we do, is we produce good coaches, which is another thing that our product does. Like, what other product does that? There's not that many people out there that do what we do at the level that we do it, and all the different martial arts that we train, and put out good coaches, not just good athletes. I think that's the other thing that we do. And then if there is they've got a job, and I can step back and I can focus a lot of my attention on them. I can be there for them. I can travel with them. With Eryk, he's all the time wanting to go here, wanting to go there. Hey, let's go here. Hey, let's go there. Let's go visit. Wanted to for a week, whatever. And it's helping me as a coach, because I get to go experience all this stuff with them, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I really enjoy dealing with the guys that we have now. They're so unselfish, and it's so much fun to be around them because they believe in this thing that we got. They're so loyal to each other. We got guys that travel for Eryk's fight, the whole squad. You know what I mean? The whole team was going to come to Belém. In Brazil, it was just kind of unworkable. You know what I mean? But the whole squad made it. When Marcus fought in Vegas, the whole team drove to Vegas, or made it to Vegas to be there to support each other. And when they fought in Bellator in Memphis, we sold 150 tickets. Memphis, that is support.
A 3-4 hour drive for your group?
It's a 4-hour drive. It's a 4-hour drive. My squad, my team, and all of the tribe. We got 30 people on the mat, 4 hours away, from our spot to come train at SBG Camp, because they get it. They get it. So it's fun to be around them, because they're not the same guys that they used to be, that were maybe a little bit selfish, or maybe got a little bit selfish, or maybe they thought that they were bigger than the team, because they're not. And the second that you do that is, in my opinion, I think that's when you start to lose. The second you start to,
That's definitely something that I've seen SBG gyms do better than just about any other gym.
For sure.
And it actually caused us problems back in the day, when we had some people who didn't want to be a part of that, who were at a high level, who were fighting in UFC, who didn't feel that it was important to pay for their training, to contribute to the coaching that they got, to be on the mat when others were getting ready for fights, because you see that. Even in some of the best gyms, you see that you'll expect everyone to be there to sweat and to bleed and to break for you, and then you take 8, 10, 12 weeks off until it's time to get ready again. And something that we've always been big proponents of and didn't let people slack on, to the point, like I said, that they're not part of the team, is that if people are going to be here for you, then you are going to be here for them. You get a couple days off of your fight, depending on how your fight, like I'm there, so I know how bad it went or how badly it didn't go. And if you can be back on the mat in a couple days, then you need to be back on the mat. Like I remember I tried to come back in the room after one of my fights, and I think, it was my fight against Brian Baker, because it was the first time I ever got knocked out.
The MFC.
When, whatever happened, I lost that fight, but I got KO'd. And I tried to come back like that next week to be in the room to help Kel get ready for something. I think it was that fight. And it wasn't even so much the concussion, it was the fact that my freaking face hurts. So he punched me once, and then I tried to just figure out how to fight through that, and then he hit, I was like, I can't do it. So I had to take a couple extra days off. So I made sure I was on the ground, I could do it, but I couldn't spar with him anymore. I couldn't be the body that he needed. But I expect every one of my guys to fight and come back. If you're healthy, you come back.
And if there's a room full of 50 of those people, nobody even notices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody even cares. I mean, we've been to gyms where they've got huge rooms.
Like you had the room like you guys had this morning.
Right.
But that's every morning. I've been in rooms.
Today was really good.
And I've been in rooms like that before, like Chris saying, that had high level people in them, but
they don't take care of each other.
They are there for themselves. And again, there is a selfish attitude to becoming the best in the world at something. It is a singular endeavor to become a world champion in anything. Whether it's Tiger winning a Masters, it's someone when it's you've got to be selfish. I get that, but there has to be some amount of you that is like, well, I want to get better at this, and that's important. But I understand that if that guy gets better a little bit, then I'll probably get better as well. So it's not all on me in that regard. Like, help that person get a little bit better, so that now they're a better training partner. I'm better. It's the idea that we take with our Brazilian Jiu-jitsu in SBG, which again is not. I've been in rooms where there were people that I wouldn't train with that were part of my team at the time, because it was more important that this happened than I get a chance to do that. And I'm not going to train with you, because even if this is, we're getting after it, there still has to be a thought in your mind that my safety is important. And same thing, there has to be a thought in my mind that you getting better is still important. Even if it's 99% me, there's got to be a piece of me that has 1% you that I'm thinking about. And that's what, that 1% is the percent that makes you come back at least and be a good training partner for everybody else after you got done abusing everybody in that room. Well, now it's time for them to abuse you a little bit.
Sure.
And there are rooms where that's not held, people are not held to that same standard. And their cultures are atrocious. They come into their camp and then they fly back to where they live. And their cultures in those rooms are atrocious.
It's bad. And I'm not interested in that. I'm just completely disinterested in having anything like that. It's not pleasant. There's always drama. There's always prima donnas. There's always that exists, and I'm not going to tolerate it, because at the end of the day, it's what I want it to be. And I think
it's not worth it for it to be anything else than that.
And it's unique what it is that we have, the way that we reach everybody.
I think what happened, there was a period of time when we were learning how to run the gym, back in about 2010, let's say. So it's 8 years ago still, but back in about 2010, towards the end of 2010, so even in 2011, we were learning how to run the gym, and we started making some changes. And we started putting a lot of focus on the business. And while putting that focus on the business and trying to get regular people in here and move them up, the way we move people up in the program and stuff, we sort of took a back seat. Sort of the fighting took a back seat. And that was apparently, it's funny because David Oblas said something to Adam about it once. That apparently became understood, that wasn't our singular interest anymore. So it wasn't so much that we didn't want to do it, it's that we needed to put some effort in some other things. But then while that was happening, a lot of my guys left because they grew up a little bit and they retired. So my room that had Kel Yarbrough and Jared Burke and Brian and led like a lot, it's that room, that group slowly got smaller. Around the same time when we weren't necessarily actively trying to bring in new young bloods, because again, then you're still going to have that same problem where you're not necessarily growing this over here, whether it works or not. And Chris has shown it can work, but he didn't lose. Like, I lost everybody. At one point, we pretty much didn't have any of those guys left, so it was hard to bring up that next group, especially because there were no veterans there to help with that process.
Sure.
It was just me and Adam and Lucas trying to build the business, but also trying to maintain that. And I think Adam sort of lost a little bit of his motivation for that at that time, maybe. So there are a lot of factors that just went into, yeah, we can still do it, and we have a few in the room, but not like we used to. But now, since you have people that want to be a part of that, and you have people that want to support it, because that's the one thing I realized when anything's like, we now have people again who really want to support this, like the moms, who some of these guys coach different classes just around. The kids love them. The kids want to go to fights when they can, when there's places they can go. The parents want to go. They want to buy the shirts. Develop such an incredible place that can support fighters, regular people, kids all being around. And then if I got to hold some hand pads for the few that I have, then I do that in the morning. But then they all train together. Now, if I get one or two of those kids, then I can start to bring them into that and start to build up that. So I'm going to be like 2 or 3 years behind him if it naturally progresses the way it can. But a lot of things came together at once to kind of make that go away. So you have to accept, okay, I'm just going to deal with all these regular folks now, and that's cool too. And that was something I had to get out and realize, like, listen, you can still be one of the best coaches in the world, but we either have those people here, or we don't. And if we don't have those people here, well then let's just get a lot of regular people to do some really awesome things, and then every now and again maybe someone comes in that we can put back in that funnel.
I think it's really cool if you can get those guys to buy into it. You know, Elkins and Ethan and Taylor and Vaughn and Eryk Anders all moved from another place to be part of our team. They slept on my mats, they slept in their car, and they did all those things. They struggled, they answered the phones, they cleaned the mats, they cleaned the toilets, they did all that grunt work. And I had those guys that bought in after the Marcus Bridge and Salter, but when those guys moved on, we had this other up-and-coming crew that was really, really, really good, really solid, and they stuck around for a long time. And out of that, we produced what we have now, because those guys have value, man. They just need to see and buy into what it is that you're doing, and I think that's something that, because they bought in, they showed me they bought in, it made it really easy for me to trust them with my tribe, my people, after being burned so many times, because unlike Adam and Rory, like, I brought in other high-level black belts, I brought in I had a world champion Muay Thai player living with me, you know, for 3 years, because I cared so much about the product, and it was really good, you know, it was really good, but there was something broken, and I think it was our perspective, and it was getting back together with SBG and realizing what the most important thing was about this entire journey is that I still have these friends that I've had for 20 years, and I love these people, and I like to hang out with these people, and at the same time, we get to talk about the stuff that we love to do, which is help people through the vehicle of mixed martial arts, jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, whatever it is, and we get to share ideas with each other, and it's made things so much stronger. The people that I have now, the team that I have now, is so much better in terms of the camaraderie, the unity, integrity, how much they help each other out, and what they contribute to the tribe. Instead of just taking away, they contribute, they see the value of it, and they 100% bought in. You know, their kids are there. They believe in it that much. And that's something that, again, I think is really unique in what it is that we do. You know, giving value to everybody else, and you see these guys competing at a world championship level or a world class level, and they come in, they're back in the gym, and they're bringing their kids to class, and they're socializing with everybody, they're at the gym socials, they're at the camps. You know, it's extremely unique, and I think it's one of the most important things that we do. You know, and that's how we're able to generate so much support for camp, is that people get it. They see it. And, you know, I'm really proud of what we've been able to do with the younger guys coming up, because they've really taken the mantle, because they are the ones that, they're coming to me saying, hey man, you know, you need to give Q a fight. Q really wants to fight, and he's working his butt off, and he's doing this. They're the ones that come to me. Like, all right, well, let me pay attention to this guy. Hey man, this guy's coming to me, he's approaching me, he wants to spar, man. I think he's getting really good in class. I think you need to probably let him spar a little bit. Like, all right, cool, we'll see if he's really about that life. You know, they're coming to me. They police it on their own. They maintain the culture, and that is really cool. And they've 100% bought in. They see the value of it, and they're able to convey that now to other people, where I think before it was difficult. It was just natural that we do, and it just kind of happens. You know what I mean? That everybody that does what we do is really cool, and hanging out with these people are really cool, even though everybody's a little bit different. It's very natural, but explaining that to people is something that I think we failed at for a long time. Now I think we've really got our message. Like, this is what's important. This is our perspective. This is our focus, and because of that, I feel like my competition team has gotten better, if that's even possible. You know what I mean? I feel like I definitely know that the gym has gotten bigger and better, and the tribe has grown, and I love the people, and I never don't like going to work.
I think the part of that the fight is being better, is that when someone comes into the gym, like, if they want, because I deal, you know, people way more than Adam does, being here all the time. If someone says, I want to be a fighter, I'm like, cool. And then I mean, like, let's just worry about the martial arts first. And then if one day you get to fight, then you can fight. I don't like to talk to people about being fighters. I don't ask people if they want to fight. I don't talk to them about being fighters. I try and put in their heads that they are martial artists. And that if you want to fight, you can fight, because you can be a martial artist for your entire life. But if all you are is a fighter, then then you start to think about, well, I got this very limited time frame that I can do all this. Sure. And then when I'm not a fighter anymore, what am I? And I've seen people struggle with that and lose themselves in that, and then to the point where some of them have gone away, and you know, it's 3 years later when they finally get back in touch, like, man, I've always wanted to write this email, I always wanted to make this call. It's like, I felt bad about it.
They stop being around the tribe, they fall apart.
So when you push tribe and martial arts, then you get a group of people that go away and come back after they fight. You know, if they go fight and they come back, you got a group of people that are very invested in everybody else. As selfish as they may be as fighters, they're very invested in everyone else in the room, because it's a martial arts ethos. Fighting as an ethos is terrible. Like, if you think about what that really means, like, what you got to do, you got to just be violent all the time and think about hurting people and stuff. Like, but if that's all you ever thought about, then how do you then come back in a room and think and care about other people if you've got that very warlike mentality?
Sure.
Right? So you talk about martial arts, you talk about getting everybody else in the room 1% better, and the tribe, and then those people can accomplish anything, and then when their fights are over, they're still around, because they're still doing the thing they were always doing, which is thinking about other people, being a part of that.
When you went through a transition period, and you guys have both taken athletes to high levels, and outside of the business perspective, how does that feel personally? I mean, you put a lot of time and a lot of effort into someone and their success, and when for whatever reason they decide somewhere else is a better fit. I mean, how do you, not only from a business perspective, but also personally, how do you deal with something like that when someone that, you know, almost feels like one of your own in a family has decided that they think going somewhere else is a better fit for them?
Well, they got to do what's best for them, and at the end of the day, if that's what is best for them, then I will support that decision. I no longer think that's the best route for people to go. Again, before I thought that you're going to hit a certain point, then it makes sense for you to go to one of these other places, and I don't think that's the way to go, because I've seen that go the wrong way just too many times. Just too many times.
A lot.
Like 100%.
You guys experienced this.
Take a look at any fight, and it's I can't back it up, but like 75% that I can think of.
They start changing.
When they leave, they go from one camp to the next, they almost invariably lose that first fight. and a person wins a bunch of fights in a row, loses a fight, and then decides that everything that they did up to that point went wrong, but instead of looking in the mirror and going, what did I do differently, or was that dude just better than me? Like, that's cool too. Like, that's gonna happen. Not everybody's the world champion, right? And then sometimes someone's a world champion for like that one fight they won it, and then 24 hours later they got to fight again and they lose it. So it's a really difficult thing to become. It's a really difficult thing to hold on to and defend. That's why we talk about guys like Mighty Mouse being one of the best of all time, because he defended it like 11 or 12 or some crazy amount of times, right? But there's not enough honesty. Like, I didn't train as hard as I could have, I didn't do the things I could have, blah, 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 because everything was good for the first 9 fights, and then something went wrong, and now I've got to go somewhere else. And sometimes it works out very well, and then sometimes it's just not the right move. There are some rooms that a guy's going to get to a level in that maybe he's got to leave. Again, that's not that. Some people might have to leave, but do as many of them have to leave as you've seen leave in the sport? Probably not. Business-wise, I run again. I don't have a giant fight team. My fighters are members of my tribe. They pay me a membership. And I give them a little bit more of my time because they are professionals and they represent us. Just like we have an extra comp team practice for our jiu-jitsu, because those people are going to go out and represent us on the stage.
What it is that you do if you can compete.
But business-wise, I'm losing a student. I'm not losing $1 million payday in the future. One of my guys one day goes off to win that kind of money and wants to be like, thank you so much. Something like what Forrest did after he left. Awesome. But they're going to make $500 or $1,000 or $10 or $20 or $50 or $100 one day. Cool.
I just no longer think that that's the route that they need to go. I think that the best route is for them to stick it out and let's solve the problems together. If you want to go someplace, then we'll go someplace. You want to go visit somewhere, train with some other bodies and bring people in that kind of, emulate the person that you're competing against, that's all cool and again. Like going to visit, we went out and visited Wonder Boy, and I think his dad's awesome. I think Wonder Boy's awesome. They got a great facility. They're fantastic people. And we needed that look for the Machida fight so we can get that timing down. I think that's great. And then come back home and let's work on it. Because at the end of the day, you're important to me because you're my tribe member, you're my family, and wherever you go, they're not going to put as much value on you. I believe that the coaching ability that you receive here is phenomenal. I think the programs are great. I think Coach Adams is awesome. Coach Rory's awesome. I think I'm a good coach. I think I have good coaches that work for me. High-level wrestlers, high-level jiu-jitsu players, high-level strikers, and we can pull from a multitude of different people to spar with. There's no reason to get up and leave your home and go to another gym unless you've lost faith in
exactly.
coaching. You have to have the ability to be introspective. We talk a lot about 100% accountability, 100% accountability in business, 100% accountability in life, 100% accountability in your fight career, bro. Like,
if you feel that you need to go somewhere else for coaching, then that to me tells me that you don't trust in your coach. Because it's one thing if I have an athlete that wants to go get some work, because I might not have the bodies he needs, but so much of an athlete fighting is his technical ability, his understanding of the game, his understanding of the basics, how to throw good punches, how to sprawl, how to wrestle. Like, those are all things that if you have a good coach can teach you. If you have some decent bodies, a good coach and those bodies can get you tired, so you can get that. Like, there's really, there are a myriad of ways to run a practice and to deal with someone who might be a little bit better than some of the people in the room. So, but if you need to go to an open mat type of thing where like you just need some bodies to look at, then to me, I've never had an issue with that. The only issue I've ever had if I thought an athlete needed to go somewhere else for coaching, like if you're going to go to that thing because there are bodies there, then yeah, you probably need those bodies, go for it. But if you think you need to go somewhere like going to Thompson, like you need those bodies. Eric didn't go there to get coached by Ray though. He went there to work with another athlete because he needed that look and needed that body and wasn't getting in the gym. Okay, can't get all the same looks in the gym. But Chris went and coached him. It's a sparring session, but you're coaching it like it was a fight. Like because this is what you're going to see in that fight.
Sure.
So if you need to see those looks, like if Brian had a fight coming up and he needed a D1 level wrestler because this guy's got then you send him somewhere to go do that. If I can be there, great, but I'm not sending him there to get coached by this guy's coach.
Sure.
Because the moment you think you need that, then you don't trust your coach, because then who's going to corner you?
So I just
Who
think
you
it's
thinking
different.
about? Who you listening to? Like, what, I'm doing this thing and they're doing that thing. It just doesn't work.
I just don't believe there's a graduate school out there that's better than what we're doing. And if it is, then I'll quickly catch up, because we're constantly seeking to grow and educate ourselves and get better. Like, I'm never not focusing on our product. I'm constantly focusing on new ways to coach jiu-jitsu, wrestling, MMA, striking, boxing, Muay Thai, whatever. That's martial artist mentality. We're never not training, and we're never not trying to educate ourselves and grow and moving forward. So I think that you can stay abreast of all, if it's a concern, you know what I mean? I think that if they feel like you don't really care about them, then they might move on, you know?
And I think that's big, and you touched on that. And there's this epidemic flaw you see with athletes a lot in MMA, where athletes get to a high level and they overvalue bodies, right? And they don't take into account the attention and the love that you've gotten. And they see somewhere where there's a lot of stars, but that's what their bodies, and that's what you're going to become. You're no longer the guy who has a tribe of coaches and athletes supporting you. You're a fodder for the guy who's a little bit more important than you and a little bit better than you.
Sure.
And yes, you'll have great bodies and athletes to train with, but you're not going to get that same kind of support.
Who is paying the coaches the most money? That guy's going to get the most looks.
And
That
you
girl,
are
that
his training
guy.
partner
Yeah,
now.
for sure. And now you're there just to feed that guy, and hopefully that you get better as a result of it. And just being around and being in that system, like, you're going to get the call up because so-and-so trains at this gym or that gym, you'll get the call up, and you can go out there and get busted up, and that'll be the end of your career. I think that if they're part of a tribe, that we're going to take care of them. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to let them lose because I don't know what I'm doing.
Sure.
And as long as I continue to commit myself to that and they see that commitment, I don't think there's any reason for them to bounce unless they're being disingenuous,
I think that's one of the things that SBG has been able to do so much better is that humility that you as head coaches have, where you understand your coaching ability, you know what you offer, but you're also able to see that, hey, here's something that I can't provide you with. And you have the confidence to send your guys to work with a specialist.
Or bring them in, yeah.
And you know that it's going to be in their best interest, but they still appreciate what you guys have done. That at the end of the day, they're going to come back to you.
Well, it's also really cool to have access to a number of specialists that are in our community already. You know what I mean? You want a good group of guys to go work with and wrestle with, man? Go up to Boise. You want to get some good MMA training, good jiu-jitsu training, come to Athens, go to Atlanta. You travel out to Portland, you want to get ready for a jiu-jitsu tournament. We've got enough right here in our own community. I don't think there's really much need to travel far outside of that anymore. You know what I mean? Unless, again, you're looking for something specific. When you get to a certain point, the fights get more specific when you're talking about breaking it down. But
I was on the mat the other night teaching an MMA class, and we're doing something, and I was looking over at Brian. I'm like, what's your take on this? And it's like, I had him teach the class. Like, why am I going to teach this thing when I know he does it better than I do? So just let him teach it, and then let him give a little pointer on how he likes to do something. Because, for me to think that I'm always going to be the smartest person in the room and know the most about everything in the room, talking about I got to be an NCAA, wrestler, I got to be, world champ BJJ guy, super awesome boxer guy, super awesome kickboxer guy. I'm good, and I understand I can take people up to a level, but there are going to be some things that's going to be very, it's going to be certain those things will be very specific to me. So if I want then to be able to branch out a little bit, then all right, well then how do you, then look at the guy in the room who does it the best, And if I got a brown belt in the room who does footlocks better than I do, and we're doing some footlock stuff, then all right, well then you show that thing, and everybody do what Coach Steve's doing. Everybody do what Brian's doing. Can't be all things to all people. I can't be the best at everything.
For sure.
But I have to be pretty damn good at some stuff to be able to at least get someone to a pretty high level.
Well, and I also think that reflects back on the program is that the way that the classes are structured, the way that we all coach as SBG athletes, Like, we're going to take you, you're going to get all the fundamentals and all the foundations, you're going to have all the fundamental concepts of all the different games and everything you need to play, and then you will kind of figure out what you like to do, what your game is, instead of you have to play my game, and this is my game, and you got to play my game. We kind of let them develop on their own. You know what I mean? As long as they're not violating any of those fundamentals. I got guys that are footlock guys. I got guys that play De La Hiva, reverse De La Hiva, that play worm guard. I got guys who do that. And I think it's important to have that because you want your people that are competing to get exposed to that. Because a lot of that stuff is just a different system or a trick. And the way you beat a trick is through exposure. You know, you figure you get exposed to it. If you've never exposed to it, you go out there in competition, you get smoked. You know. So the product is constantly continuously evolving, not just because of us anymore. It's our ability to produce these other coaches that have the ability to convey that information and the desire to pass that information on to other people that might never compete ever. You know, some of those people in that room are never going to compete. They don't want to either, but they're still learning from a former world champion, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A UFC athlete, a former world champion. So I think that's something that's unique to us again, and you know, you can't really talk about it too much. I think that's what we do best.
As we wrap, we talked a lot about the loyalty and how, you know, Straight Blast gyms do such a fantastic job of creating an atmosphere where you can compete at a high level, or somewhere where you can train with your wife or your kids. With your I dare say there's no other organization that's had a coming out party over the last 5 years on a high level like Straight Blast Gym, where you're just seeing this influx of high-level guys. What do you attribute that to? What do you think is the biggest factor of guys coming out at such a high rate under SBG coaching?
20 years.
We grew up.
20 years.
We grew up. The
20
NCOs,
years.
Kavanaugh, Adam, myself, Rory, we grew up. And again, there's this system, there's this tribe, and there's this sharing of ideas that strengthens everything. You know what I mean?
And it's being, and if one of the fundamental things that separates SBG from other people or the gyms is that idea of finding the truth in things, then it's being open to change, right? Like, look at sort of the older crop of which I came up with, in a sense, and how, although some of them are still fighting, how they're just touch some of those dudes on the chin, they all fall down, right? Because how we used to train. But you quickly learn that you can't test the dude's chin. You can test the dude's toughness. You can try and break him mentally. But you can't test the dude's chin.
It can only take years.
His chin's down, his hands are up, and he's doing all the things right, but we can't do this and be like, all right, let's see how big a punch you can take. And back,
develop
you know,
chin.
right? So, but we all trained in a room where sort of that's, back in the day, that's what we were doing. We were doing tests, but we were hitting each other hard. We were getting after it. People go home with headaches. People go home slightly concussed. And you do that every day or a couple days a week. And so, you know, we grew up in 20 years, realized that there are better ways to do things. And you accept that there is evidence for those things, and you reason your way through it, and you come to a conclusion that this is better than what we used to do. And then that's your new starting point with everyone. I go to places where there are dudes in the back learning how to defend a jab. I watched a guy before one of our fighters' fights, his coaches were teaching him how to defend a jab in the warm-up room. What? He went out and won his fight by triangle, so I'm trying to figure out how awful was that dude that dude lost to this guy who couldn't even defend a jab 5 minutes ago. Because they are unwilling to realize that the wheel need not be invented, because we already did it. There are books and videos and people there is such a plethora of information that if you determine that this is the way you're going to do things, then you are willfully ignorant. And I hope all of your fighters lose from now till eternity. But if you realize that there are better ways to do things, and you grow up and you're like, let's start from here, because we know better. Like, okay, and I'm going to learn everything I need to know up to here, and I'm going to move forward this way. And that's something that SBG is constantly doing.
Not going to make the same mistakes.
Want to always be better. And that's not just in the technical aspects of how to get out of mount or how to hold someone in your closed guard like we did earlier. It's like, how can I make these training methods better so that my guys don't take as much abuse in practice, and the only time they're likely to get hurt is going to be in a fight, because we're going to protect ourselves in a room, because this is not the most important thing in the world, and figuring out who's got the bigger, yardstick is not the most important thing in the world.
One of the things that I admire about both of you that I think has been so incremental in your success is that your athletes, I see you guys making the necessary change and only the necessary change, as opposed to trying to give someone a huge game plan based around all these movements and all these combos. As you look at them and you see their body style, maybe versus the other guy's body style, and you're both incredibly good at giving them the fix that, there may be 8 fixes that they need, but you're able to identify the one thing, whether it's postural, and just make that adaptation. I've seen you guys have huge success with that.
And knowing that the fundamentals and the delivery system is the more important thing than, again, all the, like, how big's your toolbox? Like, my toolbox is not very big anymore, because I can't think about the 900 things I need to do from this position, which if I think about the 900 things I need to do from that position and how to defeat that thing and that thing and that thing as a total of one specific thing, then I just take in all these details. So you grow your fighters the same way we do our jiu-jitsu. Like, this is the thing, and then it's a lot easier to fix the very basic fundamental possible flaw that's happening, as opposed to a lot of details about some crazy shit.
Sure. Wrapping it up, man, this has been a long one. As we go out, just give them what you're most excited about SBG going forward.
I'm just super excited to see it continue to grow in the future, seeing hopefully some of my own people go and open up their own gyms, and just to continue to bring what I believe is the premier martial arts organization in the world. And I say martial arts, that includes, the stand-up, the clinch, the ground. I just continue to see that just get bigger and bigger and just affect more and more lives, like this gym here does, and his gym at home does, and 150 people out there have been affected by coming here and being a part of this. Just want to see it keep growing, because it's truly, singularly, one of the most impressive organizations I've ever been a part of.
Man, I tell you, I second a lot of what Rory just said, for sure. I'm excited about the growth. I'm excited about helping my team, my tribe get better, achieve their goals, whatever it is those goals are, whether it's weight loss or they want to, develop some self-confidence, or there's a kid getting bullied at school or whatever. I also look forward to helping to continue to develop my team and move this into a career, and convince people that this is one of the most important jobs on the planet Earth, and it's an actual job with an actual career. And I want to provide a path for my people to come up through the system and provide for their families as well. I'm looking forward to that, and the constant continuous development that we have. And now that, we really have been, growing this thing and forcing, or not forcing really, but really putting a lot of focus on spending a lot more time together, SBG as a whole. I think the sky's the limit. I don't think that there is a ceiling to what it is that we can do and what it is that we can accomplish on every level without having to sacrifice your integrity. We're still putting out high-level competitors because we believe in our martial arts and our martial arts program. At the same time, we can help the soccer mom, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the cop, the convict, whoever it is that's having problems, the kid, the woman, whatever. You know what I mean? We can help all those people and reach all those people. And I am excited about what 2018's got to hold, because I can't wait to reach more people and develop more athletes. We've got a young crew of people that are coming up, and we're still growing, man. All of our gyms are still growing, and people like Paul Sharp are opening up gyms. I'm looking forward to that development and getting to meet those people and help develop that tribe and assimilate those people into our tribe. Right? The growth of the gym on every single solitary level, the growth of the tribe on every single solitary level, I think is something that's, there is no ceiling for that. We got a lot of reach.
Two of the best in the Southeast. Appreciate it, fellas. You are in the Athens area or Birmingham, make it a point, whether you're an athlete, mom or dad, or a kid, stop by and you will not regret it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, fellas.
Thank you.
That's solid gold right there.
That was gold.
Appreciate that, fellas.